Hey everybody, Zach here from Primrose Productions. Today we are checking out the Waves SSL EV2. Waves just dropped this new plugin earlier this week, and I wanted to check it out and see what it could do. But not only that, I also wanted to see how it compares to the original Waves SSL E Channel. So we're gonna go check it out. We're gonna see some of the new features in the new version, and we're gonna see how the old one compares to the new one and see what the actual differences are between the two and all of that. But before we get into that, if you are a new artist, a new band, if you're a musician that doesn't have any of your music out in the world yet, I want to give you something that's going to help you out. I recently have been spending my free time helping some emerging artists get their music out into the world by giving them a free song totally recorded and mixed at my studio. No cost to you at all. If this sounds like something that you would be interested in, go check out my website, primroseproductionsmusic.com/free song. Figure out what you got to do, fill out the form, all that, and I'll get back to you. Anyway, let's jump into it. Here is my review of the Waves SSL EV2. So we're looking at what is a finished mix. We're going to be looking at the drums right now. And I usually use the regular SSL E channel across pretty much almost all of my drum tracks. So basically what I've done here is I've pulled up the old plugin and the new plugin, and I've copied all of the parameters from the previous plugin, whatever they were set at, into the new plugin, because these are supposed to be the same E channel, just obviously they've updated it in a couple different ways, and there's different saturation types, which we'll get into a little later. But for right now, I've just copied exactly all of the parameters across all of the drum tracks, and we're going to go back and forth between what the old one sounds like and what the new one sounds like. And obviously with the new one, we have the saturation here, and we have the ability to switch between the brown knobs in the bass or the black knobs. And since obviously the original SSL E channel here has the black knobs, we're going to leave it on the black knobs for now. We'll get into the brown a little bit later. But for now, yeah, we're just going to be switching in between the old and the new. So as you can see, this row here is all the old version, and this row here, the blued out ones right now, are all the new one. So let's hear what this sounds like. Let's try that again a little more clearly. So we'll play the same section with the old, and then we'll play the same section with the new. And again with the EV2. So first impressions here, what I'm really hearing is that the new version just sounds fuller overall. It's definitely giving almost a more realistic sound to the drums. It sounds a little more like you're actually in the room. It's a little bit warmer, and there's a little bit more energy behind the drums. It's a little looser. Whereas I feel like the old version is actually a little tighter, which in certain things, that might be what you're going for. And obviously this song was originally mixed with the old version, so if I wanted to dial in the new version more, if I was doing a mix from the beginning and I decided to just use the EV2 rather than the original version, then I could probably get this tighter too if I wanted to, but for right now we're just trying to hear the comparison between the two different types. So one more time, here's the old. And the new. They're still very similar, but like I said, especially for the drums here, I feel like there's just a little bit more energy in the EV2. Now, the brown knob is obviously in the bass, so it's supposed to be a coloration for the kick. For the most part, the kick and the bass guitar. So real quick, we're just gonna switch to, this is the kick bus. I have the regular kick and the kick sample being sent into this bus. And even though there's an iteration of both plugins on individually on the original kick and the sample, we're just gonna do it overall to the bus. We're gonna switch to the brown knobs and just see what that does. So right away I'm hearing with the brown, there's just way more punch to the low end of the kick drum, which could be cool in certain situations. And the black is, again, a little tighter than the brown, which, again, in certain situations could be cool. So anyway, that's what it sounds like on drums. Let's go check it out on guitars. All right, so this is the guitars for the same mix that you heard already. Let's start with some clean guitar here. So again, same thing as before. We got the old SSL E Channel and the new SSL EV2, and we've just copied the exact same parameters from the old one into the new one, and let's hear how the coloration changes. So with that, we're hearing, well, I'm hearing pretty much the same thing. The new version sounds a little bit fuller overall. I'm actually also noticing that the old version also kind of has a bit of a harsh high end, a little bit. So this is kind of taming some of those harsher frequencies, and it's just overall a little softer sounding. The old one still sounds tighter, but again, I feel like we could probably get the new version tighter by tweaking it. But again, we didn't mix this track with the new plugin. We mix it with the old one. So for now, that's what it's sounding like just by copying the exact same parameters there. Now let's go into some distorted guitar here. Again, starting with the old, and we'll switch to the new. So we're getting the same thing here. A little bit fuller in the low mids, a little bit less harsh top end, although there are some kind of painful frequencies coming through in the guitars, and that's just happens with high gain guitars. In the full mix, you don't really hear those harsh frequencies as much because you got the cymbals up in that high frequency and doing other stuff. But yeah, it's kind of the same thing. The old one also sounds a little tighter, but for the millionth fucking time, you can probably dial that in tighter with the new one as well. Let's go check this out on vocals. All right, so we're going to start with these washy clean vocals in the beginning of the track here. And we'll just go through once with the old one and once with the new one. We are the ocean. We will swallow you. And let's hear with the new version. We are the ocean. We will swallow you. right? Especially on that with the whispers and such, you can definitely hear how the EV2 is taming some of those harsh high frequencies, which is really pleasing to me at least. And there's certainly plenty of instances where you could make use of that. Now let's go to the cleans in the chorus. There's also going to be some harshes overlaid here. So just ignore actually I will mute the harsh vocals for now. All right, so this is just the cleans in the chorus. And we'll start again with the old version and switch to the new one.
Viral contagion, cause there's comfort, spreading like wildfire.
There's some pretty intense delay on that. In the mix, it obviously doesn't sound that intense, but just focus on the general tonal quality here. So one more time, just the beginning with the old version, and we'll switch to the new version.
Viral contagion, viral contagion, cause there's comfort, spreading like wildfire.
Yeah, definitely got more piercing high ends in the old version. So I feel like so far, honestly, what I've liked this switch the best on is the clean vocals here and on the drums, just because I felt like it made the drums a little more realistic, and it's smoothing out some of the vocals sound here, filling it out a little more, and I think it sounds really great. I didn't so much like it on the guitars, but that's okay. Anyway, let's check this out with some harsh vocals. And starting with the old.
Family has forsaken them, gone without a trace. The victims are countless, lured by evil's embrace. We lurking in darkness before you're swept away. Best known with bodies, it's closer every day.
Viral contagion, cause there's comfort.
So same thing, it's filling it out really great. And I also feel like the harsh vocals could probably benefit from switching to the brown knob. So let's see what that sounds like.
Family has forsaken them, gone without a trace. The victims are countless, lured by evil's embrace. We lurking in darkness before you're swept away. Best known with bodies, it's closer every day.
Especially soloed like this, I feel like that brown is adding just a little bit of meat there, which is cool. And let's skip ahead and get some of these harmonies. Not really harmonies, are kind of overlaid screams. So, I'm going to just automatically do the same thing here. I'm going to switch this to brown because these are harsh vocals. And we're going to switch the whole thing from the old to the new.
Children of blood,
Would help if I unmuted the vocal harmonies here.
children of blood, we are the ocean, we will swallow you.
And switch to the new.
Children of blood, we are the ocean, we will swallow you.
Gotta get that fucking bleh in there, right? But yeah, so again, just way fuller sound. I really like this on the vocals so far, and especially with the harsh vocals. Switching to the brown knob instead of the black just fills it out a lot. Now, we're going to check one more thing. I don't usually put an SSL channel on my bass at all, but just for the sake of it, we're just going to slap one on to mess with some of the saturation options that we get out of this, such as the brown knob and the mic and the line gain here. So let's switch to bass. All right, so here we have some bass, and we got all these other plugins on here already. Like I said, I normally don't use the SSL at all on my bass, but in this case, we're just going to do it to try out some of the saturation. And with the EQ, there's nothing turned on yet. The EQ is in the loop, so switching to the brown knob will add a little bit of coloration, but I'm not actually boosting or cutting any frequencies in the EQ here. The dynamic section has been turned off, and we have the analog warmth on here, and we'll mess with the line and the mic inputs here for saturation. Now, in this particular case, I prefer the black. I like that bass being a little tighter for this song in particular, but I can definitely see where the brown knob could come in handy for some bass saturation. Now let's play with the mic and the line gain here and see what we get. All right, that mic knob got real gritty and painful really fast, but it's already a very gritty bass part. So let's try the line and see what that does. I actually really like that line gain there. I feel like it's kind of overdriving the whole thing a little bit, and it is adding a little bit of harshness in the high end, but we can always cut that out with a subsequent EQ. But yeah, especially compared to the mic, at least in this application, I much prefer the overdriven sound that the line knob is giving us than the mic knob. So that's pretty cool. Now we're going to go check this out on a full mix, and it's a little complicated. I'll explain in a second. So the biggest downside of this plugin is that it's a little big, so doing this was a little complicated. When I put it across a whole mix like I normally would, my computer straight up cannot play the mix anymore because the plugin's just too big. Now, admittedly, my computer's a little outdated. I've been looking into upgrading in the near future, but I haven't yet. So I would imagine with a newer computer, and especially if you have more RAM, it shouldn't be a problem. But this computer currently has like the bare minimum requirements to run this plugin. So it's a little much for my computer to handle. So what I had to do is I went into the old mix and I did what I showed you basically on all the individual instruments. I swapped out the old SSL channel with the new EV2, and I copied the parameters exactly just like I had been showing you. And then on the kick, as well as the harsh vocals, I swapped to the brown knob instead of the black knob to add a little more energy in the low end for those. And I ended up not using the SSL channel at all for saturation or anything on the bass because, like I mentioned, I usually don't use the SSL channel on bass at all. So I skipped that. But so basically what I did is I bounced out the mix with the old SSL E channel and the new SSL EV2. So that's what we're going to show you here. So this top track here, the blue one, this is the original mix with the SSL E channel. This is the actual mix for the song. It was totally done. So that's the mix I'm showing you. And then over here, the green one is with the EV2 on it. So we're just going to go through this mix and we're going to check it out. So this is with the original. So for that intro section, I definitely prefer the sound with the EV2. Like I said, it smoothed out some of the harshness in the clean guitar, and the vocals. So I just feel like it really smoothed out and rounded out that whole sound in the intro. So now let's check it out a little later on and see what it sounds like on the rest of the track. Okay, so what I'm hearing is I prefer the original SSL E channel on this particular mix. But again, this is the original mix of this song. It was mixed with the SSL E channel. So that makes sense that it would sound overall better there than with the EV2 because I just copied the exact parameters. If I actually mixed the whole song with the EV2 and tweaked it a little more, like I said, some things are a little looser with the EV2, and it's a little more low mid heavy. So in certain things, especially across a whole track, that can build up a lot. So it's a little muddier in the new one. So had I actually mixed the whole song from the ground up with the EV2, then I could have accounted for that. I could have boosted a little less of the low mids in certain things. I could have tightened up the compression a bit on there. And I imagine that in general, it would be overall a fantastic plugin to use across a whole mix. Just unfortunately in this situation, I can't really test that because of the limitations of my computer. So that's a little unfortunate, but that's what I'm hearing, and I'm gonna stick to that. So that's pretty much it. That's what the plugin's like. Some things that I noticed, some big pros. It's a much fuller sound than the original SSL E channel, especially in the low mids. It adds a lot. The new saturation options like the brown knobs as well as the mic and line gain that you can crank up add some really nice texture, especially again in the low end. And it also takes out some of those harsh high frequencies. The biggest con to this plugin is that it's huge. It takes up so much CPU. And if you have a bit of an older computer like I do, or if you don't have a lot of RAM in your computer, you're probably gonna have difficulties running this plugin on your mixes, and that's a big downside for those of us who, can't currently afford a new computer. Like I said, I'm currently in the process of looking into getting a new computer, so once I do that, maybe I'll try using the plugin a bit more and see what it's like using it on a full mix from the ground up and see how that comes out. But until that point, this is what we got. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed that. I hope this showed you what this new plugin sounds like compared to the old one. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part about this new plugin was. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.